From AP English Productions, this is Slaughter, a series one story told week by week. I'm Carol Langham. Today's episode is The Death of Gatsby. For months now, I've struggled with the homicide case of multimillionaire Jay Gatsby. Both my father and mother worked at the Long Island Police Department, and having heard snippets of their conversation, I found myself immediately intrigued. I have no desire to be a detective. I am simply a writer captivated by a case that I feel deserves to be resolved. Just a year and a half ago, on September 1st, 1922, on West Egg of Long Island, local garage owner George Wilson shot and killed Mr. Gatsby in his own pool. Upon shooting Gatsby, Wilson committed suicide moments later. Which makes me wonder, what would provoke a simple man such as Wilson to commit such actions towards someone he'd seem to have no affiliation with, and then take his own life after? It's a long story that I will dive deeper into, but first let's establish the facts. Gatsby was blamed for the murder of Myrtle Wilson. His car struck her, killing her instantly. Her grief-stricken husband, George Wilson, sought to seek vengeance on whom he assumed was the driver of this yellow Rolls-Royce. However, it wasn't Gatsby driving as everyone presumed. It was a woman by the name of Daisy Buchanan. It intrigues me that with a splash, the life of the wealthy 32-year-old man was gone instantly as the bullet shot through his heart. George Wilson pulled the trigger, but was he solely responsible for the death of Jay Gatsby? This question has been nagging my brain for months, and I feel as though I'm tied to this case, and I haven't been able to rest since. Though it feels as if though I haven't learned much, I have learned to suspect everyone and to trust no one in this case. The main source of evidence I have found for this case was through the testimony of Nick Carraway, Gatsby's neighbor and friend. He tells of his experiences with Gatsby, and without it, I might not have gotten a good glimpse of Gatsby's persona. Of course, I fact-checked Nick's claims, and to my surprise, I found that these stories were told with genuine sincerity. I began to learn more about this man, past the dazzling, glamorous facade, and more about the real Gatsby Nick knew. Nick Carraway is the second cousin once removed of Daisy Buchanan. I asked around and discovered that Daisy was the most sought-after girl, society's golden girl. She is beautiful, with short light hair and a voice that enticed all who listened. Unlike most girls of the time, she was born into a wealthy family. I did some digging and discovered that Daisy had a past with Jay Gatsby 6.5 years ago. The two had a summer romance when Gatsby was stationed at Daisy's hometown of Louisville. Shortly after, however, Gatsby was sent away to war, leaving Daisy restlessly waiting for his return. After Gatsby arrived back home from war, he struggled to earn money to qualify to marry his one love, Daisy. And as societal norms go, rich girls don't marry poor boys. This sounds like a normal romantic tragedy, but Jay Gatsby was anything but normal. He was the epitome of irony. In sheer contrast to his extravagant and wild parties, he was incredibly reserved and secretive. Yet all of his lavishness was created in the hopes of reconnecting with his long-lost lover, Daisy. Through Nick's testimony, I learned that Gatsby, originally dirt poor, attained his wealth through under-the-counter bootlegging. He was involved with gang businesses, explaining why his wealth seemed to have come out of nowhere. It seems expected that if you're in love, you'd put your entire effort into reaching that person. But Daisy was now a married woman to the filthy rich Tom Buchanan, who, unlike Gatsby, inherited his money. One can come to the theory that Tom, losing Myrtle to a car accident and Daisy to Gatsby, both who he considers his possessions, might have reacted with rage to the man that had threatened his once so secure life. Although there is no direct evidence to prove this theory I've created, Tom was seen in his home packing all luggage to go to some vacation. This leads me to wonder, why were Tom and Daisy leaving? And could they be hiding something? Due to all the questions circling in my head, I had decided to try to clear up the cobwebs by contacting the Buchanans. However, both of them declined an interview and had seemed adamant in their decision. That's why this particular phone call had shocked me so much. Hello?
Hello, this is Daisy.
Daisy Buchanan? Oh my gosh, you have no idea how much I've been wanting to speak to you. I just had a few questions about Jay Gatsby.
Gatsby? What Gatsby?
Jay Gatsby, ma'am? He was murdered about a year and a half ago, and I was wondering if you could maybe explain a few missing pieces about his death.
I'm sorry, but I don't know anyone by the name of Gatsby.
But
I must not be who you're looking for. Goodbye.
Yes, that was all I got. I had expected more of her, but sadly, that was really all I got. I actually had numerous sources confirming that Daisy had been seen with Gatsby, so I don't understand why she would lie. It makes me question if Daisy played a role in Gatsby's death. Perhaps the obvious manipulative nature of her persona and the supposed selfishness she possessed skillfully brought about Gatsby's demise. There is the possibility that she felt pressured into leaving Tom, and her indecisiveness had created an emotional crater in her mind. But then, there's also the claim that Daisy was driving, and that because she had allowed Gatsby to cover up her reckless actions, she had also allowed for Gatsby to die. This claim that Daisy had been the one driving was stated by none other than Nick Carraway. I went around town asking about Gatsby and discovered that the rumors about him were just as wild as his parties. Some say he was a German spy during the war, and others say he's second cousin to the devil. I tried to reach out to the man that seems to know him best, Nick Carraway. I'll read out the letter he sent back. And I quote, "Well, there's a lot I can say. He was driven by his incorruptible dream. He had envisioned great things for himself, and sought after what he had not realized was lost. He looked to her as if nothing else in the world could matter anymore, and it took him to a point where all he could care about was her. Daisy was selfish. She ruined a good man. She took advantage of his unwavering devotion to her. She knew Gatsby would take the blame for Myrtle's death, and she didn't think twice. He was a man blinded by love, though. There's something about love that propels you to lose sense to think for yourself. I can't blame him entirely, but he was never content with reality. He lived somewhere else. He lived in the past, and for that he paid the price." End quote. It will never be fully cleared whether Gatsby caused his own death, or if Tom and Daisy were backstage when he was shot. With all this investigating, it's rather unsatisfying to be left with such little information for who really destroyed the empire Gatsby built for himself. Yet, despite the lack of a thorough conclusion, I can conclude that Gatsby's vision was reverent and that he was well deserved to be the Great Gatsby.